It is Friday, July the 10th, 2026, and it's time for The Swamp, where I cover the daily happenings inside our federal machine. And I'm wearing monetization green shades in this ridiculous shirt because the channel finally reached 1,000 subscribers over 10 months and 1,200 videos in the making, even though technically it's only a few hundred videos because I clip highlights from each episode. But regardless, thank you very much for giving the channel a chance and for following along, and I'll keep grinding every episode as the Swamp takes even a longer road toward 10,000 subscribers. And there's always a lot happening in the federal machine, especially these days. The drama never stops. And as always, if you enjoy the video, please give a quick like and subscribe, leave a comment, and click on the notification bell, and I'll keep you up to date on everything happening in the Swamp Monday through Friday. Every article is linked below in the description, and highlights from tonight's episode will begin dropping here on the channel tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern. From Secretary Marco Rubio, a Laotian National, Tou Lue Vang, was convicted of sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in Minnesota. You probably remember me talking about that earlier. This week, he was set to be deported until Governor Tim Walz issued him a full unconditional pardon, wiped him of all of his legal sins, and he's allowed to enjoy his time in the United States with no charges whatsoever, even though he enjoys raping children. But Secretary Marco Rubio decided to revoke his legal status, and Immigration and Customs Enforcement has already removed him from the United States of America, and he will never endanger another American. Even more importantly, another American child, never again. Not ever. So let's hear from Marco Rubio.
Just weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota.
Motherfucker.
Laotian National, Tou Lue Vang, was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota.
Evil.
He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing.
Oh yeah, but that wasn't all of it. He even told the child that it was her fault, and essentially, why are you making me do this to you? I did read that somewhere.
Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States. Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat to any American ever
Damn
again.
right.
Americans must never be forced by their elected leaders to live alongside foreign sex criminals who have no right to begin with to reside in our country. This administration will always stand with the American people and defend them from violent criminals.
Amen. American people, not violent criminals, not illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, undocumented American migrants, whatever the hell you want to call them. We stand for Americans. Clearly the Democrats don't, because you've got Democrat governors, especially the one in Minnesota, who are giving full unconditional pardons to child rapists. That's literally what he did. And I was looking all over the place, probably for at least 20 minutes, 25 minutes on my Democrat feed, trying to see if any Democrat had anything to say about this. Not a fucking word. Not a single word was said. It's not surprising at all. It doesn't surprise me for a second that no Democrat would say anything about the evil Trump regime deporting an innocent, undocumented American migrant from Laos who may have just done something, inappropriate with a child at some. No, they never said anything like that. Just stone silent, absolutely dead silent over on the left. Of course, from Mila Joy, want to know the difference between Democrats and Republicans? Tim Walz, a Democrat, pardoned an illegal who molested a 10-year-old. Marco Rubio deported him, which of course Marco Rubio is a Republican. Scott Jennings, the difference between the two parties. Governor Tim Walz used his political power to keep an illegal alien who abused a 10-year-old girl in Minnesota, and Secretary Rubio, with the Trump administration, used his to deport that
Have you been following this situation in Minnesota with this illegal alien who sexually assaulted a 10-year-old girl and then received a pardon from Governor Tim Walz? Facts here are crazy. Walz granted a pardon last month to a man named Tou Lue Vang, an illegal alien from Laos who had been convicted in 2006 of repeatedly sexually assaulting a 10-year-old girl.
Yeah, and he says, well, it's totally normal. It happens all the time where I come from. So what? What, you expect the United States of America to completely change all of our morals and values because that's just what you're apparently used to, which I'm sure he's full of shit anyway. That's not something they normally do in Laos. Maybe in some like remote village where he claims to have been from, which he probably wasn't even from there anyway.
The pardon erased his state conviction despite objections from prosecutors. Now,
yes,
why would Tim Walz pardon someone who had been sexually assaulting a little girl for years?
For years.
I'll tell you why. Because he was trying to protect that illegal alien from being deported from the United States. Tim Walz wanted to keep this violent illegal alien in our country. It is sickening.
Yep.
But today,
so we could do it again.
The U.S. Secretary of State...
Look, that's what Democrats want. They want to turn American citizens into victims. They want to create this victim culture where everybody's traumatized and everybody just we got to deal with all kinds of baggage and bullshit. Got to get on Big Pharma's programs, start taking anti-psychotics and all this other ridiculous shit.
Marco Rubio has stepped in and corrected this situation. I want you to listen to this important announcement from Marco Rubio in Cut 5.
Let's hear it
Just
again.
weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota. Laotian National Tou Lue Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota.
Times.
He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing. Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America.
Again.
Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States.
Hallelujah.
Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat to any American ever again. Americans must never be forced by their elected leaders to live alongside foreign sex criminals who have no right to begin with to reside in our country.
Can you imagine?
Absolutely not. Look, and there's one thing that they might not even mention, that the Attorney General for the state of Minnesota also signed off on his pardon, and also the Chief Justice for the Supreme Court of Minnesota also signed off on it, because there's a process in Minnesota that it has to go through the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, it has to go through the Attorney General, and then it finally gets to Tim Walz, who signs off on it. So it wasn't just Tim Walz. It was others too.
Bigger difference in the two parties than what this case shows us. You have Democrat Tim Walz using his political power to keep a violent illegal alien in our country. And you have Republican Marco Rubio using his political power to get this person out of our country.
Yep. And
every
crickets from the
Democrat ought to be asked, who do you side with in this case? Every single one of them. But I'm sure they won't be.
No, they'll say, I don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? I didn't hear anything like that ever happen. Or they'll just be dead silent and just walk away without saying a fucking word. From Rapid Response 47, what would you say now to Governor Tim Walz, who is asking to Tom Homan, the border czar? He said, I can't say it on air, but who pardons a child rapist? Yeah, that's a good point.
What would you say now?
Tim Walz does.
To
the
Governor
Democrats
Tim
do.
Walz.
Can't say it on air, but look, who pardons a child sex offender, child rapist? I mean, that's
he almost looked embarrassed.
He supports illegal aliens over U.S. citizens, U.S. citizen children. I'm glad Marco Rubio did this, but you know, this happens more times you can guess. Will, I mean, you know, unless you understand immigration law, I see a lot of times a district attorney or in a sanctuary city, they'll downgrade a crime so they can't be removable. For instance, if you're a resident alien and you get an aggravated felony, you can be deported without even seeing an immigration judge as long as you get a felony conviction with 365-day sentence. And I've seen cases.
Why they're not arresting them?
355. Now, why do you think they did that? They did that so we couldn't act to remove this person from the United States. So this happens a lot, but President Trump, the Department of Justice, and thank God Marco Rubio's all over this. We're going to fight them every time they come with this.
Well, that's why they keep cutting illegal immigrants loose time and time again. They might arrest them. They might bring them before the judge. And, of course, the judge is going to drop their charges. And then they'll let them out. Of course, they're not going to let ICE know about it. They're just going to let them out quietly. And it's a win-win for Democrats because now they don't have to add that arrest or conviction to their crime statistics, and it artificially looks like that their crime numbers are down when they're actually not. They're just not arresting the criminals or putting them through the justice system. Instead, they're just letting them out so they could just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. From Homeland Security, ICE has deported Tou Vang, the illegal alien child rapist. Governor Tim Walz pardoned in an attempt to allow him to remain in our country. While Walz and his fellow sanctuary politicians fight to protect heinous criminals like this, we will continue putting the safety of the American people first. And there's the image of the Laotian dude, the child rapist, who is now going back to Laos. I'm not sure if they're going to be putting him in prison or not. I would certainly hope that they're going to. But one thing's for sure, he ain't going to be here anymore. And let's see, Governor Tim Walz and Minnesota sanctuary politicians pardoned an illegal alien who repeatedly sexually assaulted a 10-year-old. On June 10th, the Minnesota Board of Pardons voted. Okay, so it wasn't just A.G. Keith Ellison. It wasn't just the Supreme Court Chief Justice. It was also the entire Board of Pardons. They voted also to grant Tou Lue Vang from Laos a pardon for his 2006 convictions for sexual assault, strong-arm sodomy, and procuring a child for prostitution. So he was prostituting this child out for other people to rape her. That's what it sounds like to me. This pardon came just a week before Vang was set to be removed from our nation. During his interviews with police, Vang tried to justify his actions by saying, quote, "It's a cultural thing to marry and have sex with girls as young as 12. Well, that ain't how we do shit here, and he fucking knows it. If that's how they do things, you go do that in your own country and leave us the hell out of it. Even though, it'd be nice if we could somehow find a way to, bring it by force that they do not do that in any of these countries. But, Governor Tim Walz's pardon shielded this child rapist from removal from our nation. This is the type of disgusting criminal sanctuary politicians are shamelessly protecting. And I will repost this if you want to read this letter. It looks like it's from the Clemency Review Commission in Minnesota. Matter of fact, I am going to read this. Dear Tou Vang, this is to him, and I believe I read this when this whole thing broke open in the news. What was that, like maybe a week ago or so? The Minnesota Board of Pardons voted to grant your pardon at its meeting on June 10th, 2026. Congratulations. We will send our official pardon certificate to you in the coming weeks. The certificate will be filed with the district courts where you were convicted. A granted pardon sets aside the conviction and purges it from your criminal record. Once the certificate has been signed, you are not required to disclose the conviction at any time or place except for a judicial proceeding or during the licensing process for peace officers. Being granted a pardon is a notable achievement. They're giving him a certificate of achievement and a reflection of the work you have done since your conviction. If you have any questions, please contact us at the phone number. Visit the website. Sincerely, Carly E. Stark, Executive Director, Clemency Review Commission. How do you like that? They give him a certificate. They're essentially giving him an award. He probably took an acceptance speech and the whole 9 yards. They were just applauding him and, oh my God, he's so brave. Tim Burchett, it used to be a normal in our country to hang these demons. Hang. Let's make it normal again. Yeah, I absolutely could not possibly agree more. And let's see the response. What he was responding to is Brianna Morello, Laotian National, Tou Lue Vang, convicted of repeatedly raping a 10-year-old girl, claiming it was normal in his culture, has been deported from the U.S. Pedo sympathizer Tim Walz pardoned him last month in a move DHS called an attempt to shield him from removal by wiping his deportable conviction. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stepped in to make it happen anyway. And I couldn't agree more. Bring back public hangings. They got to bring them back. Make them as public as possible. Stream them if they must. And strip them down to their boxers or their undies and put them up in front of everybody. And also make all or you don't have to force them, but try to insist or heavily encourage the victims to give victim impact statements the moments before they hang this dude or any of these criminals in the future. That is what we really need to do. That's what really needs to start happening in this country again. Public executions. We got to bring back shame. We got to bring back all of that to try to make our society decent again, because it is falling apart fast. From Caroline Levitt, Minnesota Democrats pardoned a convicted child rapist. President Trump deported him. And again, these are all official government accounts. She is the White House press secretary. And I'm just reading the words. I know there's some not so nice words that I'm reading, but it is what it is. I'm reading official government accounts here. All right. So Here we go. We're going to go to whitehouse.gov. Let's see what the White House, whitehouse.gov. This is linked in the description. Official government website. The White House. A convicted child sex offender is no longer in our country thanks to President Donald J. Trump and his administration, defeating a sick attempt by Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison to lend him safe harbor in the so-called sanctuary state. Now we know why they really call them sanctuary states. Laotian National Tou Lue Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in Minnesota, which he excused as just a minor thing and blamed it on cultural norms in foreign countries. An immigration judge ordered his removal in 2006. In a brazen effort to shield the criminal illegal alien predator from imminent deportation, Walz and Ellison pardoned him, protecting an illegal alien child sex abuser over the American citizens they supposedly represent. The Trump administration rejected this outrageous affront to justice. Secretary of State Marco Rubio terminated Vang's legal status, and the Department of Homeland Security deported him immediately. This case exposes the depravity of the radical left. They will literally pardon child rapists and defy federal law to protect criminal illegals. Walz and Ellison stood with a monster who preyed on a 10-year-old girl. The Trump administration stands with American families. Under President Trump, criminal illegal aliens who rape children will be found, arrested, and removed. And Democrat politicians will not stand in the way. And look, what about the 10-year-old girl? Where's her justice? Oh, well, he spent some time in prison, so that's justice enough. I think she would probably beg to differ. She probably would prefer him to get the needle, and that would probably be putting the punishment extremely light. I'm sure she would request something a lot more heinous than that, which would be deserved no matter what she chose, if she had the choice. All right, so let's see what else we got. I think that we're going to go to, we're going to go to Governor Tim Walz next. What is he talking about today? Let's see if he mentioned it at all. So he said this earlier, about 10 hours ago as of this recording. Trump's DOJ monitoring elections is like a fox monitoring a hen house. We cannot allow our right to vote to be undermined by political interference. Every state must administer their elections free from unlawful federal intrusion. So let's see. He might have mentioned something about this. So this was 8 hours ago after a months-long occupation. Minnesota's still recovering from a retribution campaign waged by the federal government. So he's obviously not talking about it there. Obviously not talking about that. We just read that way back on yesterday, July 9th, so over 24 hours ago. Sending love to the family and friends of Jerry Untight, Minnesota farming legend. So it's not about that. That's obviously not about that either. And where are we? Still July 9th. Nope, not there. Let's see. Grateful first responders, not there. Now we're back on July 8th. So obviously he hasn't said a word about this. He's not voicing his irritation at the Trump administration. You know, how dare them take away that poor man's pardon and force him out of the country. Not a single word from Governor Tim Walz. I mean, he's had all day to comment on it, but he didn't say a freaking word about it. I just find that very strange. Why wouldn't she say anything about that, Governor Tim Walz? So anyway, let's see what Harmy Dillon said in response to that post that I just read about the fox monitoring a hen house, because he's pissed off that Harmy Dillon and the DOJ, they're sending election monitors to Minnesota as well as several other states because it's normal. This is what they do. They always do this. The DOJ's been doing this for decades. And she says, "Hi, Governor Tim Walz. Minnesota welcomed 47 DOJ election monitors across 6 districts in 2004, in 2020, 2022, 2024. Now, however, you refuse to comply with federal legal requests, re-elections. This raises serious concerns about transparency and accountability in Minnesota. What is there to hide?" Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you don't want election monitors in there, what exactly are you hiding? The monitors they're not there to strong arm you. They're not there to force you to not count these ballots, only count those ballots. No, that's what Democrats seemingly do. It's not what the DOJ is interested in doing. They just want to make sure that everything's done correctly, making sure that they're not closing the polls early, making sure they're not kicking out certain people who are entitled to vote, and so on and so forth. They're just making sure all the rules are followed. That's the only reason that they're going to be there. And it sounds like that the DOJ is going to probably have to sue the state of Minnesota again to make sure that these election monitors are put in place where they need to be. From Spencer Pratt, the homeless scam. Moving on to the next topic. In Los Angeles is pure fraud. How do you explain spending $1 billion a year only for the problem to get worse? fraud. Nithya Raman, as chair of the Homelessness Committee, is funneling your tax dollars to scammers.
Say this man was contracted with the city and county of Los Angeles to house and feed up to 600 homeless people, but instead he was misusing tens of millions of dollars to live a luxurious life.
This is an older video, by the way. Probably
Exclusive Fox video shows the Fed's early morning bust here at the LA mansion. 42-year-old Alexander Suker was arrested. Suker's $125,000 Land Rover was also seized by law enforcement. The Fed say Suker defrauded the city and county of LA out of $23 million in taxpayer dollars for not only his mansion and car, but a second home in Greece, luxury vacations, designer clothes, and private schools.
Your tax dollars at work.
He was living the high life while the people suffering homeless on the streets with no shelter, no food. They're living out in the streets. People are literally dying. And this guy is out vacationing, buying homes, buying Range Rovers, and going shopping.
Prosecutors say Suker was supposed to provide 3 nutritional meals a day to the homeless, but during one inspection, Suker only had canned beans and ramen noodles on hand.
Wow.
The Feds say Suker lied about various aspects of abundant blessings, including fake vendors, facilities, and the homeless actually getting meals. The U.S. Attorney's Office in L.A. says they are actively investigating at least 12 other similar fraud cases here in California. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says there's a tremendous amount of fraud in this state, and that today's bust of one man who misused $23 million alone may show how little oversight there is.
California was pushing this money out quickly. A lot of money went out the door with, frankly, very little vetting, very little checks and balances, and he's one of the individuals that got it.
The suspect is scheduled to make his first appearance later today. He faces up to 20 years if convicted on a federal case. The local district attorney is also planning on prosecuting. John.
And I'm assuming restitution is going to be warranted as well. And again, we're not having a winter storm, so obviously this video is old, but that's okay. It's still relevant because of the fraud happening with California homelessness, among probably every single other thing that's happening in California. I would imagine if all of it were legitimately uncovered, the fraud would probably extend into the hundreds of billions of dollars. That stupid rail program that's expected to go, what, north of $200 billion now for laying like 800 miles of track in total. It's something like, I think it's up to like $150 million per mile, or it might even be way more than that at this point. That might have been the earlier estimate back when it was still like $130 billion. Anyway, from G. Fan Fleet, poverty, quote unquote poverty, has also become a Democrat scam. Ever since LBJ launched the war on poverty, trillions of taxpayer dollars have been spent, yet the problem has only grown worse. Meanwhile, government and taxpayer-funded NGOs greatly expanded, enriching many along the way. Well, plus these nonprofit organizations, once they set out to accomplish a mission, accomplish whatever it is that they're setting out to accomplish, and they do accomplish it, they're supposed to close up shop and then move on to the next thing. You know, we're done here. That's just the way it is. That's the way it has to be. But they don't do that anymore. No, they've gotten to the point now where they have to manufacture shit just to keep themselves running because it's all about the job security. Anyway, from Caroline Levitt, this is just a commentary account. It's not the actual. Caroline Levitt says, remember that $24 billion in homeless aid Gavin Newsom supposedly lost? It wasn't lost. It was funneled to wealthy NGOs. One got $23 million and bought an LA mansion and a $125,000 Land Rover and a second home in Greece. Cut off all funding to these NGOs. I would certainly hope so. So we already saw that. And I believe we've got Governor Gavin Newsom's press office who's commenting on this from 8 hours ago. False! There is no lost $24 billion for homelessness. All the money is accounted for. Anyone can see how counties are using their funds right here at accountability.ca.gov. Well, don't mind if I do. We're going to check that out here in just a second. So what the report found was that not all state programs required locals to report at the time how those tax dollars improved outcomes. This was fixed by the Newsom administration. Learn more about how California blunted increases and bucked the national trend last year, outperforming other large population states like Florida, Texas, New York, and Illinois. And I don't know if this is the same link. It might be a different link. It might actually be a different link, but that's okay. And which, by the way, California, the amount of money that they had dumped into this homelessness program across the board, it amounted to over $130,000 per homeless person, for each homeless person, just over the last few years. I mean, it was like the last 5 years. California outperforms the nation in reducing the growth of homelessness. State sees the largest decrease in veteran homelessness in the nation. And they have it organized by county. Where's the link? There's a link here somewhere. Oh, you know what? It's the other one. Here we go. This is the one. This is the first link. View results by county. Since 2019, California has made unprecedented investments. Yeah, maybe they said that they made investments, but I'm not really sure how much of it actually was brought into the real world. There's probably a lot of investments on paper and a lot of money that probably disappeared. So they've got it by county, and they've got it separated by housing, by the homelessness, whether if it's if the unsheltered numbers are down or if the number of homeless people are up, and also behavioral health cases. And like, for instance, Alameda County, there's 34,739 housing units that were completed between 2019 and 2024. The unsheltered population's down 11.1%, which, by the way, this is 3 years old, this information. And it's not just for Alameda County. Since Alpine County, since 2023, you can just scroll and scroll and scroll. All of this information is over 3 years old. It's old data. So it's not even current. They can't even keep their shit together to keep this website current. So that the best link that he could provide to us where we could go view the data and the statistics, it's 3 years old. It's over 1,000 days old. So, all right, so let's see. Unsheltered is down 6.8% there. But, and Amador County unsheltered's up 6.3%. They didn't even bother compiling any data for that county. Unsheltered is up 6.3%. Unsheltered is down 28%. Unsheltered is up 18.5%. I mean, look, it's common knowledge. I mean, like, you could go all the way through this list and you can, just weigh the ups and the downs and try to see if it kind of balances out or if there's more downs than there are ups. But at the end of the day, it's already common knowledge that homelessness is only increasing in California. And I don't think that Democrats are pushing back against that. They already know that homelessness continues to go up in California. The only thing that they're pushing back on is the billions of dollars that most people believe that they just completely wasted, if not just had people fraudulently steal. No, they're saying, no, we're actually putting that money to good use. We're building housing units, which, by the way, how much do you think that each one of these housing units realistically costs? What is it, like $4 million per housing unit that a homeless person's just gonna probably just wreck and ruin because either they have mental health issues or they just got, I don't know, just the inability to live inside because they've been outside for so long. I know that that's a common thing with homeless people, that if they live outdoors for so long, they get very claustrophobic living inside, and a lot of them just prefer not to live inside in sheltered housing. So anyway, I don't want to get hung up and just, get dragged into the weeds with all this nonsense with regards to Gavin Newsom. I don't know why I muted this account. That's weird. Real Robert, and here it is. Remember the $24 billion homeless money Gavin Newsom supposedly lost? No, it wasn't. It was funneled to some of the most profitable organizations on the planet, NGOs. Democrats gave the NGO $23 million. Okay, so we basically already went through all this. So how was it exposed? Bill Esseley, the United States Attorney for the Central District of California. He's identified 12 more NGOs across California that are under investigation for similar fraud. In other words, this is how U.S. NGOs have amassed $14.2 trillion in assets, an amount equal to roughly half of the United States national debt. I wonder if that's actually true. If that is true, then that is freaking mind-blowing. And yep, it's true. Approximately $14.2 trillion is in the coffers of NGOs, non-government, non-quote-unquote government organizations, I guess. According to the Federal Reserve's financial accounts of the United States, U.S. nonprofit organizations, often called NGOs in this context, had $14.125 trillion in total assets as of Q1 this year, up about $13.9 trillion in late 2025 and $13.4 trillion earlier that year. I wonder how big that number got during the COVID era. I'd be curious to know that. This includes hospitals, universities, charities, foundations, and other tax-exempt entities, with growth driven by donations, endowments, and investment returns. Earlier estimates around $8 trillion around 2019. Like, dude, aren't they supposed to be spending this money helping out humanity and doing whatever it is that they're setting out to do with their cause, instead of just what seems to be just hoarding the money? I thought it'd be money in, money out, just constantly just spending money on whatever it is that they're trying to fight for. They were lower, but the figure has risen significantly. Earlier estimates It was only $8 trillion around 2019. It has absolutely exploded. See, I had a feeling that it was going to explode around COVID. The $14.2 trillion number is a rounded or viral approximation of recent Fed data. Broadly correct. Note that this is gross assets, not net, and much comes from private sources rather than direct tax dollars, although some organizations receive government grants. So I decided to ask that question. Well, how much estimated was provided by tax dollars? About $2 to $4 trillion directly traceable to tax dollars. So, roughly up to $4,000 billion has been given to NGOs of your tax money. And that adds up to quite an amount of money per American. Let's say that there's 350 million American men, women, and children. Let's say every single American from age 0 to age, whoever the oldest, like 115 or however the oldest American is, that amounts to $11,428 of your money, my money. So they could take that $4 trillion that they were handed with tax money and divvy it out among the entire American population, and we would each get $11,428 checks, including every single child. That is unbelievable, dude. That is a ridiculous amount of money. So the assets are a stock. The $14 trillion total includes decades of private donations, earned fees, endowments, investment growth, especially universities and hospitals. Yeah, I know. They don't tend to spend that money. It's just kind of weird how they just collect all that money. Not just getting investments and donations, they're also charging a shitload for tuition, and it just keeps skyrocketing year after year. They're just dumping it into their coffers. Anyway, that is absolutely mind-blowing. That is crazy, dude. $14.2 trillion. Insane. And, clearly they're not spending enough of it. All right, so let's move on to Spencer Pratt. When you let communists run your city, you let communists ruin your city. From the California Post, an LA prop house that supplies Hollywood's biggest movies is now struggling to survive. Quote, with so much production leaving the United States, end quote. Look, I'm not even going to go down that road with regard to Hollywood. I think that we all see what the numbers are doing, like how attendance is playing out in the movie theater. They're even talking about Christopher Nolan's movie Odyssey flopping, the possibility of it flopping because Christopher Nolan got woke. And I tend to maybe agree with them that it is a pretty good possibility that it might, maybe not full-on flop, but it's certainly not going to be a massive blockbuster, just in my opinion, that a lot of people think that it is. It's just because Hollywood's completely gone downhill. I mean, it's just been movie after movie, especially this year. I think Toy Story is the only one that did decent. Everything else has just been crashing and burning like crazy. So let's hear what this prop company has to say.
With so much production leaving the United States, it absolutely has affected my business a lot. I have definitely seen a pretty serious decrease in the amount of rentals that we've done over the past 3 years.
History for Hire Prop House, which was founded in the 80s, had to lay off workers and cut hours in the last few years, after decades of working on some of the most iconic films.
These cameras were used on Anchorman. We did Forrest Gump. These go back to everything from Mad Men to Bonnie and Clyde, Ryan Gosling's piano stool from La La Land.
History for Hire is now sending a lot more of their products to sets overseas instead of to sets in LA.
But I am never going to rent as many props to another country as I would be as if that show was here. Because so much of the rentals are, they've dressed the set, they've looked at it, the director has an idea. Let's add another 200 feet of product. Let's add something different. That ability to be spontaneous is going to be lost because I can't overnight something to Singapore.
Pam's props are traveling to the places taking productions away from Los Angeles.
We sent these to London. I've also sent these to Canada. We also did A Complete Unknown about Bob Dylan with Timothée Chalamet, which was in New Jersey. I shipped a bunch to Japan. I've shipped them to Europe. Iceland, probably to Budapest for Siegfried and Roy. When we did Elvis with Baz Luhrmann, our props went to Australia. I would say the thing that's most bittersweet and heartbreaking to me is the number of businesses in the entertainment industry in Los Angeles that have closed over the past few years. I think if you talk to every single small business like myself, the biggest problem we face is the raise in rents. Rents are crazy. A year ago, our landlord took our rent up 25%. That is a huge amount when you're not making anywhere near what you used to make.
Well, look, maybe because Hollywood might be creeping back to conservatism. Maybe I've heard that possibility. So maybe the Hollywood elites are just moving overseas. But no, more realistically, like she was alluding to, they're moving production away because it's too damn expensive to film in California. That's why the film industry in Georgia blew up. And it's because places like Georgia, they got better tax incentives and probably better rents, as she was complaining about, and just better rates in general. So there you go, man. Even the prop companies are suffering in California. And if the prop companies are suffering, then everybody's got to be suffering, because you can't really do a movie if you don't have any props to do it with. Governor Kathy Hochul is going to move on to another topic. That's a lot of words for I don't care about housing. If Donald Trump doesn't want to do his job, fine. But he's not going to stop New York from building hundreds of thousands of new homes. Of course, she's the governor of New York. And yours truly said you're effectively the president of New York, really. And let's just remove all the retarded state regulations and build already. Most of the Road to Housing Act involves removing the bullshit Democrat-installed red tape, which it really is. I mean, that's what President Trump was talking about, and other politicians who signed on to the Road to Housing Act, which I believe that is what's in question here, that they're going to remove all of this ridiculous regulations and all this red tape. And Secretary Scott Turner with Housing and Urban Development, he's been very vocal on that if they removed all of the government regulations away from home building, just stripped it all away, the cost to build a house would cost roughly half as much as it does today. So this act is supposed to help remove that, but President Trump wants the Save America Act to get passed. And that's all Democrats have to do, is just insist on voter ID. So President Trump, he said, I will not sign the housing bill, which has been fully approved by Congress and sent to the White House, in protest over the fact that the United States Senate is not capable of passing the Save America Act, which is polling at 97% with the Republican Party and very high with the non-politician Democrats. I still believe that it was something like 80% or 81% of Democrats that were surveyed did agree that voter ID is necessary in our elections. The act states, quite simply, that to vote, a person must show photo voter ID, proof of citizenship, and that there will be no more crooked, corrupt, and destabilizing mail-in ballots. With the exceptions of the military, the disabled, the illness, and the travel, the Save America Act's non-passage is crazy and a serious threat to any politician who votes against it. If the Democrats are any rhino or worse working with them, do not allow a positive vote on Save America, terminate the filibuster, and pass this and every other bill that true Republicans have ever dreamt of, in addition to the upcoming budget bomb and the 1929 catastrophic-style debt ceiling bill. The Democrats will terminate the filibuster if and when they ever get the chance to do so in their very first hour, and I will no longer be able to call them Democrats again. The title of dumb will revert to the Republicans who allowed this horrible calamity to happen to our party and our nation itself. Make America great again, President Donald J. Trump. So long-winded, and I mean, look, I'm glad that he's passionate about the Save America Act. It's about time that, you know, not just Trump. He's been pretty vocal about the Save America Act all along. It's just certain politicians like Leader John Thune, he just doesn't want to talk about it. From DOW Rapid Response, another one from President Trump. The Islamic Republic of Iran has asked us to continue talks. We have agreed to do so, but the United States has stated to them in no uncertain terms that the ceasefire is over. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Sounds like Operation Epic Fury 2.0 might be kicking off soon. From Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, the so-called Supreme Leader is hiding in seclusion while his regime crumbles. The Treasury will continue using every tool at its disposal to isolate him and other regime elites from the global financial system. We will preserve these assets for the Iranian people. From the Treasury Department, today, following Iran's resumption of attacks on international shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, or OFAC, sanctioned an Iranian financial facilitator who has effectively institutionalized large-scale embezzlement within the Iranian regime, diverting publicly funded wealth offshore. OFAC today also targeted key Iranian exchange houses that move billions of dollars annually on behalf of sanctioned Iranian banks. So they're going after even more of Iran's money. They ought to just go after it all simultaneously, just shut the entire thing down, or at least as best as they can possibly do. From CNN, check this out from Israel. So Israel, they shared intelligence with the U.S. that Iran had devised a new plan to assassinate President Donald Trump. Two sources familiar with the matter told CNN. So we've got CNN blowing the whistle on this, informing the American people that Iran, at least according to Israel, intends on attempting to assassinate our president of the United States. Israel shared intelligence with the United States that Iran had recently devised a new plan to assassinate President Donald Trump. Two sources familiar with the matter told CNN, adding another layer of tension as the ceasefire deal between the countries comes under strain. One of the sources said the warning came this week. Another source said the U.S. had picked up a steady drumbeat of intelligence in recent weeks about possible plans to assassinate Trump, but the warning from Israel was new and concerned a specific plot. Other American officials suggested the Israeli report could be an effort to sway Trump's decision-making as he weighs whether to intensify American military action against Iran. I ain't gonna sway him at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. And we do have a comment from President Trump on this. The details of the plot that Israel warned about were not immediately clear, and two sources familiar with the matter said the U.S. had not vetted it themselves, nor were they tracking it before the Israeli warning. The U.S. government has long warned that Iran may try to kill Trump in retaliation for the 2020 drone strike he ordered, which killed a top Iranian general. Soleimani asked for comment on the Israeli warning, which was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. The White House pointed to Trump's recent comments on Iran's desire to kill him, which we're going to get to. I got the video, so we'll watch that coming up next. Later, Trump said he'd recently learned of a new list that ranked him as Iran's top assassination target. It's not clear if he was referring to the new Israeli intelligence information. Over the weekend, crowds of Iranians called for Trump's death during funeral proceedings for the slain Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed at the start of the war. Tensions have ramped up between the U.S. and Iran in recent days, with the two sides trading threats and strikes as the 60-day ceasefire ending hostilities is in tatters. Interesting how CNN frames that. Now, what actually happened was Iran fired missiles at innocent shipping vessels, civilian shipping vessels. I believe they struck 3 of them, and that was, I believe, probably number 1 on the list. You don't strike civilian vessels. That's part of that peace agreement. Item number 1, I would imagine. And they did just that. So it's not a tit for tat. It wasn't something that the U.S. started. It was something Iran started. Two sources familiar with recent U.S. intelligence said the intelligence community is tracking several actors who have discussed attacks but haven't taken action. One said the U.S. intelligence agencies have been concerned that Iran would target a number of current and former senior officials. But that source said the Israeli report is viewed in part as piece of a broader Israeli effort to influence Trump's decision-making on Iran. Some in the intelligence community are always skeptical of Israelis reporting, the source said. So anyway, it goes on from there. I'm not going to read every word of it, but that'll be a link below if you want to read the rest of that. And let's see if we got Trump's remark to this next. Not just yet, but real quick, BRICS news. They say that President Trump says he left instructions to bomb Iran like they've never seen before if Iran assassinates him. Yeah, I believe that. And from Eric Doherty, just in, President Trump announces if he's assassinated by Iran, he's left instructions to bomb them at levels never seen before. Hopefully, we never get close to that happening. And, okay, so I think that we've got this. Yeah, here we go. Here we go.
You know what a race car driver is? 1/10 of 1%. A bull rider, that looks pretty dangerous to me. It's 1/10 of 1%. No, it's 5.2% is you don't make it. You should have told me you're an excellent reporter. You should have told me that years ago. Maybe I wouldn't have run. It's a very dangerous profession. No, I'm number 1 on the kill list for Iran. They're lovely people. I'm number 1. So I don't know. I can't tell you that, but I don't really care because I'm doing my job and I'm doing it, I hope, better than anybody's ever done it because we have a country that's hot and really, really successful. But I mention it only because it's on the list. I mean, it came out. There was another list came out yesterday, and I'm number 1 on. I like being number 1 on TikTok better, but I'm number 1 on the list for
all right.
For killing.
Well, I guess that's one way to stay positive. I'd rather be on TikTok than number 1. Okay, so that was the comment that he made with regard to him being number 1 on their assassination list. From Breaking 911, Mamdani, the New York City mayor, officials planned a meeting with Iran's envoy, which was shut down by the State Department. So is maybe New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani, is he involved in this whole plot? Does he have something to do with this, inviting Iranian officials into our largest, most populated state in America, or city in America? Mamdani officials plan meeting with Iran envoy shut down by the State Department. This is on Fox News. A senior official in New York City, Mayor Zohran Mamdani's administration planned to meet with Iran's ambassador to the United Nations before the State Department reportedly intervened and the meeting was canceled. Commissioner Anna Maria Archila, leader of the Mamdani administration's Office for International Affairs, which, okay, I guess, like, does the mayor's office really need an Office of International Affairs? I mean, come on. was scheduled to meet with Iran's permanent representative to the United Nations, Amir Saeed Iravani, on Tuesday, the City Journal first reported. A U.S. official familiar with the matter confirmed to Fox that the meeting has been scheduled. The reported intervention marks the second known instance in recent weeks in which the Trump administration has stepped in over the Mamdani administration's contacts with foreign leaders, highlighting growing federal scrutiny of New York City's international outreach under its new socialist mayor. Yeah, that's probably what he's trying to do. He's probably trying to bring in some communists and totalitarianists into New York to give them some pointers. The Office for International Affairs coordinates closely with the State Department on many diplomatic matters because of New York City's role as host to the United Nations. Once the State Department became aware of the planned meeting, it was called off, and State Department officials met with Mamdani officials to clarify acceptable conduct, the State Department official told the City Journal. I mean, what's to stop Mayor Mamdani from just going to this Iran ambassador's office and just meeting with him? That's probably what actually ended up happening. The Iranian mission declined to comment on the meeting to Fox. Quote, "That meeting did not take place. It will not take place, and I did not know about it until there was a press inquiry regarding it," Mamdani said during a press conference. Yeah, of course he didn't know anything about it. Pressed on whether he supported such a meeting, he added, "I've said that meeting will not be taking place. Thank you all very much." Well, yeah, because the Trump administration insisted that it's not going to take place. A State Department official told Fox in a statement, quote, "We appreciate the mayor understanding the value of diplomacy and for his decision to cancel this meeting." Even though Mamdani said, "I didn't know anything about the meeting." It is unconscionable that a New York City official would even consider meeting with the Iranian ambassador to the UN, a man who consistently works to undermine U.S. interests and whitewash his regime's crimes against the United States, our allies, and Iran's own citizens. I mean, look, of course, if you asked him straight up, he'd be like, "Look, dude, I'm just doing my job." But anyway, Trump has repeatedly said he is number one on Iran's kill list, and Israel recently shared intelligence with U.S. President about an Iranian plot to assassinate him, according to a Wall Street Journal report. Yeah, probably not the best time for Democrats to be meeting with Iranian officials. That's retarded. The reported Iran meeting would mark the second known instance in recent weeks in which the Trump administration intervened over the Mamdani administration's contacts with foreign officials. Dude, they're going to end up getting themselves wiretapped or something. Like the intelligence community, they're going to end up watching them awfully closely if they keep this up. In June, the Washington Post reported that a planned meeting between Mamdani and Colombian President Gustavo Petro was scrapped after State Department objections. Fox has asked the State Department to confirm that account, so I guess it's not technically confirmed, I guess. Archila, the official who planned to meet with the Iranian representative, served as the co-director of New York's Progressive Working Families Party prior to her appointment as commissioner. She had no prior diplomatic experience before taking the role. That's hilarious. And in 2022, she ran for lieutenant governor of New York. Archila made headlines in 2018 when she confronted former Senator Jeff Flake, a Republican of Arizona, outside a Senate elevator after he announced he would vote to confirm Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. She identified herself as a sexual assault victim and asked him why he would vote to confirm Kavanaugh after hearing the account of Christine Blasey Ford, which turned out to be complete and utter bullshit, who claimed Kavanaugh sexually assaulted her when they were teenagers. Kavanaugh denied the allegation. All right, so that's the end of that article. I didn't even plan on getting to the bottom of it, but there really wasn't a whole lot there. At least word for word. There was a lot there. It just wasn't all that lengthy. From the White House, task force to eliminate fraud, and just eyes on Dr. Oz with CMS. Flushing, Queens, New York City, an epicenter for one of the biggest fraud rings you've never heard of. Social adult daycares. Yep, you heard that right. In Queens, New York alone, social adult daycares generate $2.1 billion. $2,100 million every year, I would imagine. Nick Shirley, the guy who blew the Quality Learning Center wide open in Minnesota, and Dr. Oz investigated together, and the war on fraud continues. Stay tuned. So let's have a look.
This is a war on fraud, the likes of which you have never seen.
I feel like Johnny Cash. I've been everywhere, man. I've been to California, Iowa, Ohio, Minnesota, today, New York City, Flushing,
yeah, it really has
Queens.
At this point.
We take you to the front lines wherever we're going. Here, social adult daycare centers, the biggest fraud you've never heard of. I walk through here, I wonder, how is it possible that you would have this many pharmacies in such close proximity to each other? We're gonna start counting. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, so we got one here.
One right there.
Number two, look at this. This is the durable medical equipment supplier. Those are all the things they sell, wheelchairs and automatic scooters. These are expensive.
They don't have
and then we have another pharmacy. I'm losing track. Yeah, it's like a game show. You get a pharmacy. You get a pharmacy.
And we have all
you get an abortion. Right you get an abortion.
Another social adult daycare center. But over here, we have a bunch more across the street. And I mean, again, more pharmacies.
It's a lot of pharmacies on one street.
This social adult daycare center, which I'm pretty sure none of your listeners have ever heard of, right? Generated $2.5 billion over the last 3 years in New York State, of which almost all, $2.1 billion, was right here in Flushing, Queens, and Brooklyn next door, and the surrounding areas. You go 10 miles to Long Island from here, doesn't exist, doesn't happen. So if you're me, and I'm supposed to protect the federal tax dollars, it makes me very concerned.
These blue cities are out of fucking control, man.
When all the money's spent in one place, and what the problem is, it's now
it's a gold mine for criminals.
This bad idea, the fraud, is starting to spread. If you're a fraudster, run, because we are coming after you.
Damn right. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services with Dr. Oz. And also Nick Shirley. Dude, Nick Shirley's been busy as hell, man. He was just in Cuba a few weeks ago, and he was worried that he was going to get arrested because he was filming, and I guess like some guard caught him filming or something, and was giving him a bunch of shit in his hotel. Anyway, obviously he wasn't arrested, or if he was, he wasn't there for very long because now he's back. From SBA, the Small Business Administration, we're going state by state to hold PPP fraudsters accountable with the White House Fraud Task Force. I think that's Payment Protection Program. That was one of the COVID-era loans that was handed out by the SBA, and the amount of, oh my God, it was like billions, if not over $1 trillion. It was a ton of money, hundreds of billions of dollars, I think. This week, SBA Kelly Loeffler, the 28th Administrator of the U.S. Small Business Administration, announced our latest actions in Wisconsin. In total, we have now identified $10 billion in suspected fraud and suspended over 150,000 borrowers. That's only, okay. I was gonna say, wait, that's only in Wisconsin? Well, it says here, the fraud update, 7,800 borrowers have been suspended, $375 million in suspected fraud in the state of Wisconsin. So in totality, it's at least 150,000 borrowers. That's just under the PPP program. There was that other one. There's a second big one where it was referred to, or Kelly Loeffler referred over 500,000 names or entities to the Treasury Department to have them investigate for fraud. So it was like 500,000 people essentially could be getting arrested, convicted, and sentenced to federal prison for fraud because they were defrauding the federal government. That is an unfathomable amount of people. They're going to have to build new prisons. I mean, they really will. Like, where are you going to put 500,000 people? That's crazy. From U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro. Let's see, which one should I go with first? Let me go with this one first. U.S. Attorney from D.C. Today, U.S. Attorney Pirro announced that Karen L. Contreras, 45 years old, a Dominican Republic citizen and U.S. lawful permanent resident, pleaded guilty in connection with a scheme to defraud unemployment programs. So let me just open up that in a new tab, and let's see what Jeanine Pirro said. U.S. Attorney Pirro. Contreras came to our country, was given the privilege of permanent residency, and then turned around and defrauded the American people. This behavior won't be tolerated, and thieves will be held accountable. Contreras will suffer the consequences, or the consequence of her attempt to cheat the American taxpayers. And that will be in the description. Dominican Republic National pleads guilty to participating in $1 million unemployment fraud scheme. Got $1 million from unemployment. I don't know how the hell they do this, man, and not get caught. It just baffles me. You know, if they spent all that effort, instead of doing the illegal shit, if they put all that effort and all that time and all that energy into something legitimate, they probably would be successful millionaires. From OIG at HHS this week, a nurse practitioner who authored healthcare compliance books was sentenced to prison after running a $136 million Medicare fraud scheme. Also, New York failed to ensure that 60% of nursing homes reviewed complied with employee background check requirements. My God, dude. So if you have a loved one in a nursing home in New York, I don't know like what rights or abilities that you have as an individual to ensure that whoever's watching over your loved one is, you know, like had a legitimate background check done. But statistically, odds are they haven't. They haven't done a background check on whoever's taking care of your loved one or everyone's loved ones who are in the state of New York. That is insane. So, all right, it's video. Let's check it out.
She wrote books championing healthcare compliance while running a $136 million scheme to defraud Medicare. Welcome to This Week at HHS OIG. An HHS OIG joint investigation found that nurse practitioner Jean Wilson the author of multiple books championing healthcare compliance, paid medical providers to order medically unnecessary orthotic braces and drugs for Medicare patients. For her role in the scheme, she was sentenced to 10 years in prison and ordered to pay back $66 million.
Probably. That's horrifying.
But protecting the Medicare program also means securing nursing facilities that care for our families. A new HHS OIG audit uncovered that New York failed to ensure that 60% of the nursing homes we reviewed complied with employee background check requirements. We even found that some facilities allowed staff with potentially disqualifying backgrounds to provide care before the required checks were complete, putting nursing home residents at risk of abuse, neglect, and exploitation. We provided New York with targeted recommendations to fix this serious problem, because whether it's exposing millions in fraud or keeping our families safe, our job is ensuring accountability at every level of care. Stay alert, stay informed, and I'll see you next week.
Stay vigilant. Do all you can. And I hope that doesn't end up coming up in this whole string of fraud investigations. They're going to start investigating surgeons performing unnecessary surgery, unapproved surgeries, and billing and all kinds of... I have no idea, man. I hope it doesn't get that dark. That's scary. Anna Kelly. And let's see, where's Anna Kelly from? Special Assistant to the President in the White House, Principal Deputy Press Secretary. So we're going to get into the fourth dump of the UFO files from war.gov. Tranche number 4 of Pursue is live. This is on, again, war.gov. They've already released 3 batches of UFO files. Now they've released number 4. And let's have a look. And it says release number 4, the announcement. The Department of War just released the 4th tranche of records under Pursue. The first tranche was released on May 8th, 2026. Scroll down to view the 4th tranche released on July the 10th of 2026, today. And these are the files released 7/10 of 26. And it'll say release 04. And just one after the next. I grabbed a couple of highlights that were shared by other folks on the X platform instead of just going through these one by one. But again, this is at war.gov/UFO. If you want to have a look at that, it'll be down in the description. If you don't remember that really easy URL, that's all right. From Acting Press Secretary Joel Valdez, he says, from the 4th release of UAP files on war.gov/UFO under Pursue, DOW UAP PR 116, Unresolved UAP Report Atlantic Ocean in 2020. U.S. Northern Command submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomenon to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which is the DOW AARO, consisting of 32 seconds of video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform in 2020. In accompanying range Fowler debrief, DOW UAP D091 describes the phenomenon as darker, maroonish color, approximately 12 to 15 feet in height. The report describes the phenomenon traveling with the wind and noted that it did not maneuver or change direction. It also describes the phenomenon as appearing similar to a large, somewhat deformed balloon. So let's take a look at this video. Not gonna have sound, so I'll just crank up the background music. This is an unidentified flying object. I guess they think it's a balloon floating with the wind. At least that's what they say. I mean, clearly they're flying closer to it or they're zooming in. What the hell is that, man? That does not look like a balloon. Not even a deformed balloon. And they say that that's about 12 to 15 feet in height. I don't even know. Looks like a cartoon character. I see like an eye looking straight up, a nose, and like a couple of teeth and a smile, and I don't know, like a couple of legs. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's some like balloon that got lost from a parade or something in 2020. Not that there were really any parades happening in 2020. I don't know. It kind of looked like that. Okay, so I got another one. Let's see what the next one is from Sean Parnell. And once again, real quick, official account for the Assistant to the Secretary of War for Public Affairs. And he says that CENTCOM submitted a report of an unidentified anomalous phenomenon to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, consisting of 10 seconds of video footage from an infrared sensor aboard a U.S. military platform in 2023. So this was 3 years later. Yeah, there it went. It went up and then something zoomed over to the left. See where that happened. Trying to get it. There it is. All right. So infrared, I guess that may indicate that it's giving off a heat signature maybe. And then it looked like it shot something because that just, I mean, obviously the object is continuing forward or up or whatever. And then this just, I don't know, man. That was weird. So that's in the UFO files. They can't explain it. Federal government doesn't know what that is. And see if there's anything else. See if I got anything else. Okay, we got some documents from Insider Paper just in. Pentagon UFO files. Newly released documents contain the transcript of a secret 1949 Los Alamos meeting where military officials and leading scientists investigated mysterious green fireballs seen near New Mexico's nuclear facilities. Witnesses described silent, intensely glowing objects traveling horizontally at constant speeds, unlike ordinary meteors. So if you're a fan of the old school Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack, just reading that reminded me, it's one of the creepiest episodes that I can remember. And I was a little kid back in the 90s, but I distinctly remember watching that show. It was my favorite show on TV, even though it was creepy as all hell, especially for a kid. But there was a segment where they were talking about this exact thing, these green fireballs that were following planes. And it was around this time. It was like in the 40s or 50s. There was a military plane that was, it might have actually been in California, come to think of it. But I believe that there's a segment on Unsolved Mysteries that talks about this incident right here, where it was following the plane and witnesses from the distance saw this green object getting closer to a plane that was in descent, and it just kind of disappeared on the horizon or behind a not a mountain range. They were over water, but they disappeared from sight, and apparently the plane was never seen again. I don't know. It was really creepy. But I will repost this. There's a direct link to my profile below in the description if you want to have a look at these documents rather than just reading them word for word from way back in 1949. Secret Transmittal, the Conference on Aerial Phenomena. So it's going all the way back to the 1940s. I mean, we all heard of Roswell. Not that this has anything directly, at least maybe it doesn't have anything directly to do with Roswell. And then I've got one more thing from none other than Dr. Phil. An object over a U.S. range moving too fast to track. I've seen the files now, and the real question isn't what they are, it's what we tell our children.
It's Dr. Phil. I'm back with my third post today about this. The White House and Department of National Intelligence has given me and my team here at Envoy exclusive access to the new tranche of information about UAPs. Things we're finding now, Apollo 17 was seeing firework-like things outside their space capsule. They interviewed them for hours trying to figure out what this was. In the U.S. Indo-Pacific Theater, we find a report in here that a football-shaped object was observed by U.S. military making movements they could not explain. Another report, a diamond-shaped object 4 feet by 2 feet, again, defying all G-forces, making movements that could not be explained. In 2019, a range called Fowler Range, an object encroached on that training area, which is locked off in airspace so they can do training. It was moving so fast, they couldn't even track it with their tracking devices. Not that they couldn't catch it, they couldn't track it. The quality of the reporters here is really important. This is significant. A lot of the things that have made the press over the years are non-credible folks. They said they were abducted, they were held captive, and then they were returned. These are credible scientists, military pilots, officers. These are matters of national security. These have been hidden from us for 79 years. I give it to the current administration to be striving for transparency here and telling us this. So what do we do with this?
I mean, they're releasing
Why
files,
am I talking about this? Because this has a psychological impact on all of us. Are we alone? If we're not alone, what does that mean? Do these events have an impact on our lives? Are these threats? Well, what we know is at least back to 1947, maybe back 1,000 years, there hasn't been any known aggression towards us. Are these superior beings? Well, if the nearest galaxy is Andromeda, it would take 2.5 million years traveling at the speed of light to get from here to there, which...
Yeah, but dude, what does Andromeda Galaxy have to do with anything? Yeah, there's a trillion stars in Andromeda. It's the largest galaxy in our local group, where there's a couple of dozen galaxies in total. But the Milky Way galaxy has over 200 billion stars, double that amount of planets estimated, so over 400 billion planets just in the Milky Way. So I don't know why there couldn't be others inside the Milky Way. There probably
means
is.
that it would take that long to get from there to here. We can't travel at the speed of light, so we have to assume that they would be technologically advanced. What does that mean to us? What does that mean to us psychologically? What do we say to ourselves? What do we say to our children? How do we fold this into our consciousness and our sense of being and safety? Those are things that I want to talk to you about, things that we need to have some serious consideration of. That's why I'm involved.
Yeah, well, there you go. I don't know. Personally, I'll just leave that alone because there's other stuff to get to. But there you go from Dr. Phil asking those big questions. Are we alone? Like, frankly, I don't think we're alone. I just think that the universe is extremely young, and we probably are the most intelligent things out there right now because the universe is extremely young. I mean, if you stretched out the entire universe to a 100-year-old human lifetime, the universe would only be 10 minutes old right now. Like, that's how much of a baby it's still in 10 minutes in its first day of a 100-year lifetime. So, all right. So anyway, Libs of TikTok, breaking update. The Fort Worth PD released a statement to Fox about that officer who was trying to give a ticket to a Christian preacher for preaching Christianity. It's crazy. So they admitted that their officers made certain mistakes that were not accurate after they threatened to ticket Christian preachers for offensive speech. They also said they will provide refresher training to Fort Worth police officers and new trainees on First Amendment protections. They don't need training, dude. That's just basic common sense. She knew what she was doing was wrong, that if somebody's preaching Christianity on a street corner, you can't touch that because they're exercising their right to free speech. And it's about as most protected as you can get because it's religious free speech. But anyway, not good enough. These officers blatantly violated the First Amendment multiple times. They should be fired. Yeah, it's just basic common sense at that point. If she truly didn't know that she wasn't able to ticket somebody for preaching Christianity on a street corner, then like she clearly shouldn't be an officer. She's not competent enough. From Libs of TikTok. So I'll play this video again. I just played it the other day, but we'll watch it again. Female Texas cop threatens to ticket a retired officer and Christian street preacher for offensive speech. Yeah, that's another thing. The Christian street preacher was also a retired federal officer of over like 20 years or something like that. So the cop says, if someone is offended by your someone's offended by your talking, then we have a problem. The man says, you're not going to ticket us for offensive, or you're going to ticket us for offensive speech. And she said, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm going to.
It means like music, not talking. If someone is offended by your talking, then we have a problem.
That is a constitutional violation of our rights. If you shut us down,
no. If they are offended by your speech, okay, then I'll write you the ticket, and we'll go from there.
Wait, you're going to take us for offensive speech?
Yeah, that's a slippery slope.
Are you serious? Speech. You're going to cite us for offensive speech.
It's called disorderly conduct.
That's no. Disorderly conduct has to be accompanied by conduct.
Action. Yeah, conduct.
This is the conduct
I'm
that you're doing.
a retired police officer myself.
For who?
26 years, federal law enforcement.
So it's federal. So this has nothing to do with local.
Wow.
It has nothing to do with local.
Yeah. Well, I look at
everything to do with local.
Think that you can do.
He's the local right now.
Well, it says 80
whatever we
decibels.
think. Wow.
It says 80 decibels.
But y'all know the law so well.
80 decibels. There you go.
So I just want to clarify. If anything is said that's offensive, you're going to write the ticket?
If someone complains that your language or what you're saying is offensive,
it's pretty loud. So
yeah, dude, if that were the case, dude, the left would they'd be drowning in tickets. I mean, come on, give me a break. So she's got a follow-up to this. And not only just this statement, but there's also another statement with regard to Libs of TikTok specifically. And they said, update, the Fort Worth PD has now blocked us. So the Fort Worth Police Department has blocked them from viewing their profile on the X platform. Fort Worth PD has blocked you. You can view public posts from Fort Worth PD, but you are blocked from engaging with them. You also cannot follow or message Fort Worth PD. And there's another follow-up, the last follow-up. Update, Fort Worth PD just unblocked us after many people pointed out that it's illegal for them to block us and tagged AG Paxton. They're terrified. Now, I don't know about the whole legality of blocking and not blocking because it's a government entity, a government profile, so maybe that's where it kind of goes down that road as far as being legal or illegal with regard to blocking or not blocking. So, yeah, so they blocked her, and then, oh, by the way, that was only just a few hours apart. So 8 hours ago, as of right now, that's when Libs of TikTok reported that they were blocked, and then just, like 4 hours? Yeah, not even 4 hours later, they were unblocked. So it was pretty quick. They went from block to unblock. All right, so America reports breaking suspensions lifted for 8 Apache pilots after the low flyby during South Carolina's salute from the shore last weekend. So they did a low flyby, and apparently they got in trouble.
The Secretary of War Pete Hegseth stepping in to lift the suspension of 8 Apache helicopter pilots following this low-altitude flyover
That's so awesome.
during South Carolina's salute from the shore last weekend. There were several reports saying that the pilots were issued suspensions after they landed their aircraft. The move sparking outrage and getting the attention
Everybody's
of
cheering, man.
Hegseth, who promised to get involved. The Pentagon spokesman says the suspensions have been lifted, quote, effective immediately.
Immediately. Well, there you have it. All the kids that were out there on the beach that day, that had to have just made their day. Like, oh my God, they're so low. It's so cool. Check out the kid. It's got the American flag. The Apache helicopters. Low to the ground. Rocking and rolling. So that was from Pete Hegseth, from the Department of War. And just the American flag emoji. God bless America. From FBI Director Kash Patel. The only thing worse than MS Now's garbage rebrand is their reporting all false except one thing. I was at the White House. True in the fake news. We'll find out why soon. So this is from FBI Rapid Response. This is a complete and total lie. So what they said in the headline from MS Now, Kash Patel has been called to the White House on the heels of continued questions over his behavior. The embattled FBI director was sent to travel to Chicago in the Bureau's jet to see his girlfriend perform at a music festival when he was called in, sources tell MS Now. And FBI Director Kash Patel says that they're completely and utterly full of shit. This is a complete and total lie, but we would expect nothing less than a failing outlet trying to get clicks. Yeah, I'm sure that's what it's all about. They're just trying to clickbait. The director was never on the tarmac. Multiple official FBI visits were planned in Chicago and called to the White House for official business. You liars will find out soon. And soon we will find out. I don't know. It's going to be something big. If FBI Director Kash Patel is being called to the White House, probably some massive operation that's about to be happening. And this is from Kash Patel's personal profile, even though he's got the gray check mark. It's from Kash Patel himself. Nah, my jet ski is gold-plated, dumbass. Your job is to lie, and mine is to protect the American people, and business is good. Another one from MS Now. And they say Kash Patel can't count on Trump's protection forever. Yeah, they are straight up clickbaiting. That's all they're trying to do. They're just trying to farm clicks because they are failing. FBI Director Kash Patel, I got one more. Per today's announcement out of FBI Cincinnati, 8 individuals have been charged in the foiled UFC 250 plot at the White House, a major step in this investigation. This has been a sweeping nationwide operation with our Secret Service partners and local law enforcement across the country, and at every step, the evidence has been clear that law enforcement's decisive action and brilliant work stopped a violent plan cold. Let it be a message to anyone considering similar plans that you will be identified, pursued, and arrested. And I have one more follow-up to that topic from Fox News breaking. The FBI reveals chilling new details about an alleged terror plot targeting the White House UFC event. We learned the group allegedly planned to carry out a mass casualty attack involving the use of drones armed with explosives and firearms meant to shoot people fleeing in the crowds. I think that was in the news when this first broke out, and they arrested people all over the country. It was, I believe they said 8 individuals in total that were arrested. And I want to say that the person who was the mastermind was an illegal immigrant. I think I got that right. Pretty sure that they determined him to be just that. And they had mentioned drones. I'm like 90% sure that they mentioned the use of drones, and they were talking about strapping explosives to them, because I made a comparison to what's been happening in Ukraine and Russia with them using cheap drones that you could essentially buy on Amazon, and they strap explosives to them and they fly them into just enemy combatants. They just fly like kamikaze style, just blows up as soon as it makes contact with them. Apparently that's what they were trying to carry out here. So let's take a quick watch.
Through this investigation, we learned the group allegedly planned to carry out a mass casualty attack involving the use of drones armed with explosives and firearms meant to shoot people fleeing in the crowds.
Yeah, they wanted to snipe them.
Our command posts also included membership of the Secret Service and other partners to share information in real time and to help ensure no violence occurred at the White House UFC event or any other high-profile events.
Oh, and thank God it didn't.
Through this investigation,
and I was a little bit nervous with the 4th of July festivities, America's 250th birthday. I was worried that something, I don't know, man. Don't even want to say the words, but I was a little bit nervous that day. Thank God nothing, at least nothing that rose to the level of national news really took place, at least not to my knowledge. But it was a good day. It was a good day. And they were able to foil that plot. Thank God, because that would have been an absolute catastrophe. Ambassador Ronald Johnson is from Mexico. He's the ambassador to Mexico. The Trump administration is delivering results to dismantle the cartels to stop illegal firearms trafficking. Nearly 50,000 firearms have been seized, and almost 2.9 million rounds of ammunition have also been seized, and more than 10,000 arrests linked to firearms trafficking. Under the leadership of the president and President Claudia Sheinbaum, who's the Mexican president, our countries continue working together to make both our nations safer. And Trump administration's results in stopping the illegal flow of firearms, the same statistics that we just read, and they just make it all nice and fancy looking, so, you know, it's more colorful for your reading pleasure. And let's move on. What else we have? From Speaker Mike Johnson, heartbreaking stories like these remind us of the horrific impact the Biden border crisis continues to have on the American people. Yet Democrats want to reopen the border all over again, and they will. We must keep the border secure. American lives depend on it. And they will if they get power back. They absolutely will. And we already know they will. While they're pretending like they're not. Like, oh no, we had a security breach situation. They tore down a section of the fence, which is like solid freaking steel or whatever. And they're just gonna say, well, we're working on fixing it, and they'll never fix it. They're just gonna pour in. Anyway, 3-time deported illegal immigrant charged with killing a North Carolina girl 6 years old after running a stop sign. Yet another innocent American, this time a 6-year-old child, was killed by an illegal immigrant. This time from Mexico with multiple deportations. He was driving with a revoked license, because of course he was, when he collided with a vehicle and allegedly killed a 6-year-old North Carolina girl last week. And Jamie Santiago Corona was driving a Dodge Ram pickup truck on July 3rd when he failed to stop at a stop sign and struck an SUV driven by 35-year-old Kelly Toller, who was traveling with her 2 children in Pitt County, the North Carolina State Highway Patrol said. Toller and her 4-year-old child were transported to ECU Health Greenville with serious injuries. Toller's 6-year-old daughter, Callie Toller, was pronounced dead at the crash site. An online fundraiser for the Toller family said the 3 were on their way to get lunch before going to a swimming pool when the collision happened. Quote, this monster caused a car crash that killed a 6-year-old girl and injured a mother and a 4-year-old, the Department of Homeland Security Acting Assistant Secretary Lauren Biz said. And this tragedy was 100% preventable. Our prayers are with Callie Toller and her family. Corona was charged with misdemeanor death by vehicle, failure to stop for a stop sign, careless and reckless driving, and driving while a license is revoked. He illegally re-entered the U.S. 3 times, which is a felony. Of course it's a felony. And she's adorable. That's just an absolute, just sickening tragedy. Corona has a history of driving under the influence because, of course, he does. A detainer hold has been issued by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Let's hope they honor it. The Pitt County Sheriff's Office told Fox News that it will cooperate with ICE. Well, thank God they will, because this asshole needs to be put away forever. And once forever is over with, then maybe we can deport him. For the final time. Maybe. But yeah, I would certainly hope that this asshole is never getting out of jail. I mean, it should have never happened in the first place, but how many times do we have to hear that over and over and over again? But Democrats don't give a shit. They just look the other way. It's like, what? There's nothing happening here. There's nothing bad going on. Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen with DHS. You should be ashamed of yourself for protecting criminals and prioritizing them over law-abiding American citizens and our brave men and women of law enforcement. He's replying to Pramila Jayapal. Every single person who voted to give billions more to ICE last month should be ashamed. Not 1 more cent of our taxpayer dollars should fund this lawless rogue agency. So that's the mindset of Democrats. 6-year-old children are being killed by illegal immigrants, and Democrats are trying to dissolve the primary law enforcement agency that's trying to get those criminals the hell out of the country. So you already see where the Democrats' minds are already set. They're psychopaths. Unfortunately, it's a real shame what they did to the Democrat Party. Absolutely insane. All right, so Rapid Response 47, man, they're dropping the hard bullshit word. They don't drop bombs very often, not profanity, total bullshit. The light sediment that resulted from pipes sitting dormant during renovations is quickly being cleaned up. So what they're talking about from TMZ, trash TMZ, Trump botches another beautification project, brown water at a historic fountain. They didn't share videos, just an image. But what they're doing is that they're pumping old water through it, probably because the Biden, or actually more likely, the Obama administration allowed all of these fountains to go into complete disrepair, didn't give a shit about them, just let them just freaking stop working. Never cared about fixing them because, Democrats, they want everything to resemble just a utopic dystopia. That's what they want. They want everything to just look and be in disrepair and hopeless and chaotic and nightmarish. So anyway, let's see. The light sediment that resulted from pipes sitting dormant during renovations is quickly being cleaned up. So that's what actually happened that turned the water brown. I'm obsessed with the fountain. It feels like Paris. Before, this space was really dead and no one was using it. So these are a couple of quotes from this news segment that Rapid Response shared.
Fountain. It feels like Paris. I think before this space was really dead and no one was using it, and now it's become like a really essential third space in this neighborhood.
Actually from Italy, and sometimes I look around and I'm like, am I in Florence at the Giardini Boboli or am I in DC? It's just very elegant and beautiful, and it feels very safe now. And
yeah, because DC is safer now, and DC is getting more beautiful by the day. From Taylor Van Kirk, of course, HQ News Now dishonestly stripped out the full context. So Vice President Vance was on a podcast and they completely took his words out of context. So let's start with that first, and then we'll hear what Vice President J.D. Vance actually said. So this is from Headquarters News Now. Vance, my life is, totally transformed. People go to the grocery store for me. I don't have to cook anymore because I have an army of people willing to cook my food. No more TSA lines for me. So let's hear how they chop this up.
My life is, totally transformed. I don't go to the grocery store anymore. People go to the grocery store for me. Most of my meals, like when I cook a meal, it's like I love to cook, actually. I'm a big baker. I like to cook for my kids as a special occasion, but I don't have to cook anymore because I've got an army of people who are willing to cook me my food. My life is so weird. I fly around on a 757, no more TSA lines for me and the kids. It's so weird, but it can become the sort of thing that if you internalize it, you start to be an entitled asshole.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what Headquarters News shared, and let's hear what Taylor Van Kirk, who, by the way, let's get her title, my bad, Communications Director to the Vice President, J.D. Vance. Okay, so she's the Communications Director.
I think that what Mamaw would say in particular is don't get too big for your britches.
Don't get too big for your goddamn britches.
That's right. That's right. She was particularly worried that, I think Mamaw always had very high expectations for me. So I don't think that she would necessarily be surprised, though how could you not be surprised by how crazy my life has been the last 10 years? But I think that what Mamaw would be worried about, and it's something I worry about too, is like my life is, totally transformed. I don't go to the grocery store anymore. People go to the grocery store for me. Most of my meals, like when I cook a meal, it's like I love to cook, actually. I'm a big baker. I like to cook for my kids as a special occasion, but I don't have to cook anymore because I've got an army of people who are willing to cook me my food. My life is so weird. I fly around on a 757, no more TSA lines for me and the kids. It's so weird, but it can become the sort of thing that if you internalize it, you start to be an entitled asshole. Yeah. And I think that's the thing that Mamaw would really be insistent on is don't become entitled about this. Recognize it's cool. It's a blessing. Obviously, it comes along with duties and responsibilities, but she would be very proud of me. I know she would. She would also make sure that I didn't get too big for my britches.
Okay, well, there's the full context of the interview. In case you saw just the chopped up version, I would imagine that it was probably circulating around online today. And yeah, man, humble yourself. And it's not a job that I would want. No way. It's way too much responsibility. Yeah. But anyway, Lee Zeldin, President Trump recently signed his Freedom to Fix memo on behalf of Americans who want to fix their own vehicles. And by the way, Lee Zeldin, he's with the EPA if you didn't know. And break up California's monopoly over the certification of aftermarket parts and combat the sale of cheap foreign knockoffs. As part of the Trump EPA's implementation of that memo, we just granted Specialty Equipment Market Association authority to certify aftermarket parts. No longer is CARB in California the only entity in America with the power to certify. Look, I like that. It's a step in the right direction. Freedom to fix, freedom to work on our own cars, and freedom to buy and use whatever the hell we want. And if we don't want our car to be just completely choked off with all of this emissions bullshit, then we shouldn't have it on our cars if we don't want them. But anyway, I know, but I get it. Like states, a lot of that stuff's on the state level when they regulate emissions and all that. I don't even know. I don't know anything about it because I've lived in Florida my entire adult life, so I have no idea. We don't have emissions here. So it's actually really nice. Kind of sucks that half the cars are extremely loud, but It just is what it is. I'm used to it. From Secretary Linda McMahon, we reject the one-size-fits-all education approach. Parents, states, and local leaders know what's best for our students. The Trump administration is returning education decisions to those closest to our children. And I think this is what we're going to finish up with tonight.
No,
I got one more.
Fits all. States and state boards of education and governors and superintendents and secretaries of education in those states know what's best for their states. And that's why President Trump's whole program and his philosophy and belief, as is mine, is that the best education is that's closest to the child. Parents, teachers know what's best in their communities, what needs need to be served. They're watching and and observing these children and looking at the test scores and rural schools are different than suburban schools or urban schools, and those needs need to be met, and they can't do it with one size fits all.
And I really wish she had the full power over the DOE, because she would dismantle it immediately, just completely dissolve the Department of Education. That would be such a blessing to our children and our future of this country. From Bethany Stevens, this is what I'm going to finish up with. This week, NASA celebrated America's aerospace legacy with building its future. Freedom 250 flyovers in D.C. New crew prepares for the ISS, and also the Artemis 3 assembly hits new milestones and supporting global disaster response. Let's have a listen.
This week, NASA celebrated America's aviation legacy while continuing to push the future of exploration forward. From flyovers above the National Mall to progress on Artemis 3, missions to the space station, and more. Here's what's new in your NASA Minute. On Saturday, NASA helped mark our great nation's 250th birthday with a powerful display over Washington, D.C. Administrator Jared Isaacman opened the weekend's air show with a flyover of the National Mall by the NASA Freedom 250 F-5 fighter jets, followed by NASA's FA-18 Hornet, F-15 Eagle, and T-38 Talon aircraft. Together, the flyovers honored America's aviation legacy and showcased NASA's role in pushing aerospace forward, from the research aircraft of today to the missions of tomorrow. Final preparations are underway to send a new crew to the International Space Station next week. NASA astronaut Emil Minin will lift off Tuesday, July 14th aboard the Soyuz MS-29 spacecraft from Kazakhstan, alongside cosmonauts to join Expedition 74 aboard the space station. Preparations for Artemis 3 are moving full steam ahead at Kennedy Space Center. Teams have started stacking the SLS's solid rocket boosters inside the vehicle assembly building for next year's mission, while nearby, technicians attached Orion's heat shield to the Artemis 3 crew module. These milestones are marking another major step as NASA works quickly to prepare to launch astronauts to low Earth orbit and test the systems needed for future moon landings. NASA Earth Science is being put to work around the world to save lives. This week, NASA's disasters program supported emergency response efforts in Colorado, Louisiana, Guam, and Venezuela, providing satellite data and maps to help first responders assess impacts from wildfires, severe weather, and earthquakes. For over 250 years, America has pushed beyond the horizon. At NASA, that work continues every day. Imagine what we can accomplish in the next 250. We'll see you next time on the NASA Minute.
Well, all right. There you go, NASA, providing the updates. 250 years. God bless America. So that's going to do it for tonight's episode. And if you enjoyed the video, please give a quick like and subscribe. And I'll be back on Monday night as we explore the swamp, Monday through Friday. I also post daily on X, which is where you can peek at some of the content for the next episode. And also don't forget the video clips from tonight will begin dropping on this channel tomorrow morning. Thank you very much for watching. God bless the troops and God bless America.